Okay, welcome to Restoring and Recreating Historical Vocals Using AI Voice Models, a case study with our students here, Jarrod Farrell, Nicholas Bays, Nicholas Charlesworth, and Professor Dr. Dmitri Gusev from Purdue University. Welcome.
Thank you. And let me start then this presentation on restoring and recreating historical vocals using AI voice models, a case study. This is the joint work with our students. As the session chair indicated, students at Purdue University, Polytechnic, from different locations, Columbus and elsewhere, Kokomo and Anderson. So what I'm about to tell you is how we would create AI singing voice models. We created some, and with the purpose to use them to restore the audio of historical creative works. They are conventional means nowadays common, but hey, there used to be times when they were unavailable. The means of remastering historical audio records. And the question is, now that we have these new AI tools that we also introduce alongside the conventional ones that we use, can we do better than before? The main objective, we have a secondary objective too, we will mention it, but the main objective is to be able to take old audio clips, not unlike the one that I used for my sound check here just before we started recording this session, and restore them to a better quality for more pleasurable listening and to better preserve the heritage of the singers and musicians from the times when they didn't necessarily have the best equipment like the modern musicians have, no way to auto-tune, etc., etc. And on top of that, their records may not have been preserved very well. They may have suffered from the heavy hand of time. So how are we going to reach that main objective? In several steps. We will first explain how SVMs, the singing voice models, are made using modern AI technology, including vocal separation tools that help in that. Because we may not have a cappella records of those singers of the past. So we'll have to separate them from the orchestra, the vocal track, and then use the vocal tracks to build their singing voice models. Secondly, we will show that the SVMs can help reduce noise and improve audio quality of the existing audio recordings, so they can be part of the arsenal and the tools that are now available to better restore historical records. Thirdly, we will introduce now our secondary objective, and we will then demonstrate the ability to reach that secondary objective and model the voices of singers from the past and generate versions of songs that they once upon a time sang but never recorded, or recreate approximately the recording that once existed but did not survive and was lost perhaps under some circumstances, or suffered very heavy damage. Then we'll discuss the key experimental outcomes of our case study, the main case study involving the voice of Belle Cole, the famous American contralto, of the late 19th, beginning of the 20th century, and it was at the beginning of the 20th century when the recording was made of her voice that our students used to build her voice model. And we'll look at the outcomes that will include the proof of concept, or what we believe amounts to the proof of concept, that we can do it. We can take this technology that was originally used mostly initially and made news with deep fakes, and we'll explain also, we'll give a definition of a deepfake. For a better good and without violating the rules of ethics and following the civilized approach to this. And we'll touch upon the fixed point stability issue, which is not unusual in general for generative AI. And with our at least partial success in timber recreation, for we didn't just build a voice model for the voice of Bell Call. 2 years ago, we already reported here a preliminary study involving the male baritone voices of very similar, by the way, very similar male baritone voices of Carlos Gardel, the king of tango, and Rafael Rojas, who was nicknamed El Gardel Chileno, the Chilean Gardel. And yes, we will explain how we intend to use AI SVMs more ethically to help restore archived audio recordings, hopefully including those that my good friend Elias Esmar of Chile has of his late brother El Gardel Chileno. Let's first review the software tools that we used a bunch of them, the conventional tools and AI tools. The specialized tools for audio processing included soft received singing voice conversion 4, specific version here is listed. RDC beta version, we'll explain one by one later what those tools do for us. Audio strip, Suno Generative AI Platform version 5, now version 5.5 is out. And for the general purpose audio processing and music processing, we've used Reaper, DAW. DAW is the common abbreviation for Digital Audio Workstation. We used several versions, down I think to actually 7.45. I don't think this number is up to date here. And Audacity Digital Audio Editor and recording application software, which is really a competing tool to Reaper. Reaper is a commercial tool. It doesn't cost a lot, but Audacity is free. So we use both. And they have their own strong points. We may not be able to get into minute details of how it all works. The first of tools that I would like to mention, it was involved in the main case study and previously in the preliminary study. This is soft PC vid singing voice conversion, and this is a studio. It contains an F0 curve editor, a speaker mix timeline editor, other features. Its archive is available on GitHub. I recently checked that link and it worked. And the project was originally developed, I believe in China, to let the developers' favorite anime characters sing with voices. That's how it started, and then quickly it proceeded to deep fakes and now all the way down to recent events, maybe already with a different voice model, with Kanye West singing some Russian song that he never meant to sing. It's a beautiful song too. So RDC is a fork. It's based on Solix, which is the previous one. And it's also available at GitHub. Here's the link, it works. And we used it too. And it has additional features. I'm not sure if you go over all the features. It's good that it allowed easy and fast training, even on poor graphics cards, because then we didn't depend as heavily on resources. Allowed the training with small amounts of data, but you may not have such a good model from that, because it may not capture due to the lack of information, all you need to correctly reduce even the timbre. There is a model there to change timbres. What is convenient is their web user interface that's indeed easy to use. We used the UVR5 model to separate vocals and instruments. That was one of the two tools that we used to separate vocals from the instrumental portion of audio track. We also used the de-echo and de-reverb feature because we want to remove echo and reverberation from the a cappella track that's already separated from the instruments before you build the voice model. And then there's a nifty feature. 2 years ago we demonstrated that if the donor voice went beyond the range captured in the voice model, then the voice model would, in the inference, go silent, and it would choke, being unable to sing high-pitched notes. So there's already a tool in RVC that at least tries to alleviate that issue of a muted sound with high pitch. Because if the vocal range of the singer for whom we built the SVM, for whom we built the SVM, it doesn't match the range of the donor voice, then at least this is supposed to help, okay? And it supports advanced graphics cards from Intel and AMD. So this is another good tool. Then Audio Strip is our second tool that my students use to split vocals from the backing music. So this is an alternative to doing what we did in the previous study using UVR5 of RVC. So we tried both. They both work. Then I did a follow-up study because the main case study came inconclusive, and I used Suno. It's an AI platform. It generates music, including vocals and instrumentation. You can give it text prompts to tell which instruments to use. Piano, saxophone, violin, what have you, celesta, theremin, any exotic instruments that we'll try and do. People criticize how well it does guitars. It does guitars too, electric guitars, acoustic guitars, etc. The platform was initially developed by a company called Suno Incorporated of Cambridge, Massachusetts, and the initial model based on BART, which they made also available on GitHub, open source. They open sourced their BART model, which is the alternative to Soviets. It did not yet allow building SVMs, the single voice models. But it generated music with vocals and instrumentation. But then in October of 2024, near the end of the semester when the two NICs were working on their main study, they introduced a new feature called personas, which they rebranded as voices. These are singing voice models, all right? And with the release of version 5.5, now it's called voices there. In version 5 that I was using, I was building personas. These are singing voice models. Let's make no mistake about that. They use their next generation of their BART. It's not Soviets. It's a different tool for building AI generated voice models, okay? And they have other features like cover, which we will illustrate in the next slide, which we used, and extend feature that will make a longer version. You can add more lyrics, etc. Here's a screenshot of what happens when you're tuning the cover option. You already have some audio, and now you want some vocalist for whom you have a voice built there, the singing voice model. You have a persona there. You want that virtual person to create a cover of this song, right? And you're in the middle of doing it. There are options that control weirdness, style influence, and audio influence. Audio being that audio from which you're building the cover with the voice model that's based on some next generation of GARP. Now, weirdness ranges here, it's at the default of 50%, from safe to chaos. And 50% is what they deem to be the normal expected result. Style influence is the second control here. Will let you choose how close AI should stay faithfully to your style input, which is the prompt, the verbal prompt. Like, hey, I want cool jazz or easy listening, or I could provide more information, including what's going to happen to the voice. It's going to be using strong vibrato or some other features. And so style influence is ranging here from loose to strong, the default being at 50%. And thirdly, there's this, if you're using an audio upload to do the cover, then you get this third slider. And what that means, here it's 25% by default. It will use that reference track, which may contain vocals, may contain instrumental portion, orchestra, whatever, band, who knows, guitars. It'll influence the vocal tone and rhythm. So it may not copy the exact notes unless you try to set it at 100%. I think at some point, at least with some version, you could set at 100%. I'm not sure if currently they let you, because if you set 100%, you will be making copies of the existing stuff. And whether this is violation of the copyright to make an exact copy of the existing stuff becomes a question. So 100% is like just go by the audio and faithfully reproduce it, but it will not make you truly a cover. It's not going to achieve us what we're after, especially with the secondary objective that we have in mind. But it's pretty cool. So they have these controls that let you influence what the model is going to do when it infers. We also use the traditional tools. I realize that now with new versions, the traditional tools will be incorporating AI solutions as well. Especially since we see that this works, that means everybody sees that it works, right? Although we have this original idea by Jarrod. Jarrod is listed here as the first author because it was his original idea that, you know what, with this deep fake thing, we can put this technology to a good use to restore old audio records and maybe generate some lost records, some counterparts to some lost records if we know that some records were lost, to recreate them. Like they rebuilt historical buildings, that were destroyed maybe in war, like the Cathedral of Cologne in Germany. So we would do something like that with AI. And traditional means also, like Reaper, which is a digital audio workstation. There are other competitor products like Cubase, for instance, that's popular also. And I mentioned Audacity that we also use. So this is available. The latest version is Reaper 7.74. So I think in the earlier slide there was just an obsolete mention of version 7.16. I think we used later versions as well, all the way down to some number. And that is a pretty nifty tool. It gives you an equalizer, letting you control the frequency content. Another way to control that is to use the fast Fourier transform based dynamics processor to subtract noise from the signal. You need to select a portion of the track that contains, preferably noise only, so that you don't start throwing away some frequencies that are instrumental to keeping the music component of the track. And so then You can subtract noise from the signal. This is before any AI. It's just pure signal processing, the good old-fashioned frequency-based signal processing that is there. The range compressor, the compressor that allows bands to be adjusted in a graph. Then another tool here in Reaper to deal with reverberation. I mentioned before that we had to remove echo and reverberation from the vocals when we were making the a cappella tracks for the singers for whom we did not have any physical previously recorded a cappella tracks. So we have something that we can build the singing voice model from. Then, however, for the natural feeling of maybe a small room or a mid-sized room or large room or concert hall or stadium, you need to add back some reverb and some echo. Rear pitch is a tool that lets you to adjust the pitch. So when sometimes the model goes off key, we can adjust the key to like auto-tune or something. And the delay here. So there are all these nifty features in Reaper. Audacity is its competing free digital audio editor and recording application software that we also use. So these were the tools that were software tools. As to hardware, what the two NICs used, NIC Bass and they used the Scholar cluster. And before them, Jarrod also used the Scholar cluster. This is our computer cluster available to students of Purdue University. And so for your class, there's an interface there. You can go request access to Scholar. And at the time when the work was done, which was back in 2024, the cluster consisted of 6 interactive login servers with 16 batch worker nodes, and you could access it in 2 ways. One way involved a job scheduler distributing batch jobs onto the worker nodes. The other option was to use it as an interactive resource with software packages that were available through a desktop-like environment on the cluster's login servers. So there were 2 ways in which the students, Jarrod and the 2 NICs, were able to access that Scholar cluster and use it for building the singing voice models for Carlos Gardel and Rafael Rojas and Belko. Onto the methodology. The methodological purpose, which is a different thing from the main goal and the secondary objective. The methodological purpose of the main case study with the voice of Belko, the great American contralto, whose AI processed picture you see here, there was a black and white picture, slightly processed here, was to find out if the AI inference function with the Belko singing voice model would have a stable fixed point property. Because the way things are with AI, if you ask it to apply certain things, it's like a vector of shifting in some direction, and if you ask to do this again, it will start from the previous point, and it will shift further from the fixed point. The fixed point is a term from algebra, from functions. It's a function, I mean, like the inference, like AI inference function in our case. And the fixed point is the one where f of x, the result of applying the function to some input, will give you x itself. And what we want is the stable fixed point property where the inference by AI voice model from an input in the voice of the person for whom we built the SKM would ideally produce an output identical or nearly identical to that input, with the possible and acceptable and maybe desired exception for removal of some of the unwanted noise. Maybe it will clean up the record, but it wouldn't change the timbre of the voice or the manner in which the person is singing, for whom we have the record and for whom we also have the singing voice model. In particular, I built two versions of singing voice model for my own singing voice, just to, for instance, let my wife hear what happens, and she would be like, hey, this is you singing. And wait a minute, nope, I hear it, this is not you singing. And two versions I built with version 5 and version 5.5 of Suno Bard.
How much audio do you need to build the models?
Great question, and it segues immediately into what we were doing initially, where we built the SVMs for Carlos Gardel, the King of Tango, and Rafael Rojas, the Chilean Gardel, from 13 and 20 of their songs respectively. And it took a while there back then on the cluster, but Suno builds singing voice models from one song. It may be supplementing something for what it extracts from that song. Who knows? People were suing Suno over the matter of training its models based upon the copyrighted audio of some other sources. And this matter for now is resolved, and Suno keeps working. They achieved some deals with the recording industry so that the recording industry allows them to use their songs to continue to train their models. And so we wanted to find out in the main study that we're reporting on how well Bell Cole's SVM would do based upon the single song that this was derived from, and this is a single song of Bell Cole that was recorded back in 1902. So let me see what I have next here. Oh, this is just a picture of the workflow, although let's do this before we try to play some music. We still have some time. So we find the video with audio quality in chosen range for Bell Cole. This was just found on YouTube. Download the video, isolate vocals and video with audio strips so we get the audio from which to build the modal. Then we built, the two mix, they built the modal for Bell Cole using Sovit's SVC. Later I built another one with Suno's Bard, right? As a follow-up study. Then they ran the learning algorithm on audio file and compared the regional and voice modal results. This was their workflow. And the workflow of the preliminary study was similar to that. In fact, Jarrod helped them figure out how to do this stuff. All right. So as to preliminary study, this was reported. There's a YouTube link. This is a YouTube link to our presentation 2 years ago when we were starting doing this. And back then we demonstrated that the SVM did capture the timbres of the performers' voices, but not their style of singing. And indeed, in Suno, for the style of singing, you have this special prompt that you have to give them to capture that to the extent you can. The inferred vocals with Soviets would often go off key, and this is something that can be corrected by the modern post-processing tools. And then the other problem is the one that I'd already mentioned, that the SVM would choke and go silent if the donor vocalist happened to have ventured outside of the original singer's range. And so then the SVM built by Soviets wouldn't know what to do, and it would just choke. This was demonstrated before. This is not news. This is just, I'm just recapitulating what was reported before. And there was also an issue with vibrato that was uncharacteristic of the original singer, so it could not be easily reproduced by the singer voice model for that original singer. Now to the main study. That's when I'm going to play some music. Before I jump to these conclusions, let me play some music here. Let's see. So this is where it begins in 1902.
Promise of night, from by Madam Farrell Code, Columbia Record.
Okay, so this is the original, and what I found out at 2 minutes and 53 seconds, this is just the half of the original cantata. This is what they could fit on their medium when they were recording back in 1902. Now, the text and music was there for the original cantata, so eventually I used Suno's extend feature. But before we got there, let me see if we can find, yeah, there was training audio somewhere here. I should have. In the paper, I have a table which matches the files to what was done. Would it be this? Let's see. So we clearly encountered some issues there with building the singing voice model from just one song using Soviets. So what is here described is that, yeah, it would replicate the timbre of her voice, but the voice model kind of chopped the sound into bits, and the output sounded very fragmented. As a result, we were unable to confirm stability of the fixed point property. And the software that we ran on the Scholar cluster also had issues with having enough memory to run multiple trials at the time, and that slowed down the study. And the guys really had just one semester there as part of their course 322, in which they learned to do and report research. To get this done, that's why I did the follow-up. And for the follow-up study, I generated personas of myself, two of them with two different versions, of Bel Cole, of Carlos Gardel from his recording of Mi Noche Triste made in 1917, for Rafael Rojas from his live home video, courtesy of Elias Smart, and some more models also, like the model of the voice of Agustin Magaldi, etc. And then I used the cover and extend features of Suno to generate two versions, a piano version and a symphonic version of the same cantata Promise of Life, using the Suno persona, later rebranded voice, of Bel Cole, that was built from this 1902 record, because Suno builds those modals from a single song. And also I made an AI remastered version of Mi Noche Triste for the male voice. This is a female voice, that's a male voice, and I worked with a variety of female and male voices, like I indicated, so I built more models actually of the singers of the past. And so more song covers were made using Suno to solidify the proof of concept. And so now I would like to use some of the time, we started a little bit late, to play a bit more music. And importantly, I want to proceed with the reconstructed AI remastered Promise of Life. There's one before I extended. I think I'll just play the extended one so that you can hear the extended one. And do I have the piano version and the symphonic version? I'm curious. This is the piano version, this is the symphonic version. You know what, let's do the piano version.
There is no song of all our hearts are singing, but has some start again. There is no life that hath not had some sorrow. There is no soul but hath its secret strife. Still our eyes smile, our hearts pray for tomorrow. Fair in its promise of more perfect life. Smile on, sweet eyes, although the pathway darken. Pray on, O heart, amid the busy strife. Prophets know his angels and the hearken. Heaven shall make perfect our imperfect life. Prophets know his angels and the hearken. Heaven shall make perfect our imperfect life.
Okay, so the symphonic version naturally would have a symphonic orchestra. I don't think I will play all of it, just to give an idea maybe.
There is no song of what our hearts are singing.
Okay, we get the idea. We added the symphonic orchestra, right? Right. Now, the more interesting thing is to demonstrate what we can do with the male voice here for a change. So, real quick. So we can start with Minaccia Triste, which is, okay, the original Minaccia Triste is like this, from 1917. Again, this is public domain. Oh, no, wait. Oh. Yeah, must not be the original. No, this is the cover already. We can tell by the sound right away that this is a modern sound. Oh, where is the original then? I have it somewhere here. Should be able to show it. Ah, here it is. There. This is the original question.
3 minutes.
Okay, so we get the idea of what the original was like. Now, on to the cover that I started prematurely.
Pero canta que me enamoraste, es lo mejor de mi vida, dejándome la alma herida y espina en el corazón. sabiendo que te he querido, que vos serás mi alegría y mi sueño abrazador. Para mí ya no hay consuelo y por eso me encurdeo para olvidarme de tu amor. Cuando voy a mi cotorro y lo veo desarreglado, todo triste y abandonado, me dan ganas de llorar. Me detengo largo rato campaneando tu retrato para poderme consolar.
It's very difficult to stop him. Okay, so there was that. Let's see, so now what do I have left there? The results. You heard the results. I may not call them proper reconstructions of the original tracks, you just heard them. But we believe that by now we have the proof of concept that AI could be a helper in addition to the traditional remastering tools. And so creating AI voice models of people is definitely possible. Female voices, male voices, from deep contralto to very high soprano like that of Nadezhda Levitskaya. But improving them may require more AI learning, processing of more data, and that would certainly take more time and consume more computational resources unless the existing algorithms for SVM generation and their application are optimized and improved. There's some ethics considerations that I hope you will find obvious enough that, yeah, we either build based upon a record that we use with owner's permission, or we derive upon the public domain of audio recordings. And yes, Suno was accused of using copyright audio works to train their AI, which raises questions. Yes, their stuff helps, but is it helping at the cost of violating something? That's less than obvious. And so, okay, as to the future work, we would like to restore music pieces from older recordings of other prominent singers, like the famous Russian bass Fyodor Shilapin. Haven't done a bass yet. And for singers who had long recording careers near the beginning of the 20th century, we can improve the audio recorded on older technology because the technology for audio recording was progressing rapidly in the 20th century. By inferring from SVMs built from the records made by them using newer superior technologies, unless their older voice changed considerably with time, which sometimes happens, like with Carlos Gardel, his voice went lower with time. So we wouldn't do that to Carlos Gardel. And we would like to also work on recreating the works of singers who didn't record some of their songs or whose recordings were lost or severely damaged, to better preserve their legacy for future generations. And we hope to be able to more easily create and apply voice models for restoration and recreation of audio recordings soon, because we see rapid progress in this over the last 2 or 3 years. And so it's also important that the progress is extended to the instrumental portions of audio tracks. Now we can extract from Suno stems for different instruments and treat them separately and remix. And another good direction of future work is to come up with numerical criteria. Right now we just listen and yep, sounds like him, and wait a minute, here it doesn't, and here he goes off key, and here we have this silent portion because we're out of range, etc. So that we can assess numerically closeness of the simulation to the desired outcome. So you can find audio files for this project online. We have them available online. We're thankful to Mr. Elias Esmar of Cerro Navia, Chile, to his son Emmanuel Esmar, to Eugene Gorny, who provided some Russian lyrics for the song that Leo Chiancha from Argentina helped us translate into Spanish. So this is one of the songs that you can find there that we had sung by Carlos Gardel, and it's liked well by listeners on Suno. A new tango from Carlos Gardel there. And the contact information, I am there at Purdue. Thank you, and this is time for any questions. We are 10:54 now.
If there's any quick questions.
No questions, but I enjoy music.
That's great to hear. I just love hearing.
Yeah, you make technology art. That is beautiful.
Thank you.
There are a lot of early American, bluegrass recordings. I suppose the same technology works as well across different.
By the way, yes, and so ethically, with permissions from the owners, the copyright holders, this can be done, and it can be done better than just with the traditional tools. The traditional tools are involved in this, like in remixing and stuff. But I discovered, and I believe that I presented sufficient evidence that this can help us. That the deep fake is not just like for having somebody say in his or her voice something that they never meant to say and create some false sensation of political meaning.
Yeah.
But do something that's art, that's music, that's beautiful, and that people would enjoy listening to, and they would appreciate the legacy of the voices of the singers of the past who are no longer with us to record more, but we can help. Thank you.
Thank you.